Hi everyone, welcome to the Fluency video. I titled this Fluency, How to Embed Meaningful Practice, because I want you to think of fluency instruction as something that is part of your normal Tier 1 routine. We're not adding in a variety of different materials, a variety of different passages, a dedicated fluency time. Rather, I want you to think of fluency practice as something that can be embedded into your instructional routines using text that you already use for read-alouds. So let's take a look at it. What does it mean to read fluently? I always go over these 4 facets of fluency because I think sometimes students in particular confuse fluency with speed. So I want to just draw your attention to these 4 facets of fluency. First, you want to make sure the students are reading accurately, with appropriate pacing, meaningful expression, and a conversational pace. Now, you want to make sure when you're teaching these different facets to the students that you are defining each of these facets, whether the students are in 1st grade or the students are in 6th grade. These are words that need to be defined for them. So you'll recognize this image on the screen. This is the checklist from the back of Wit and Wisdom Fluency Passages. So you see those 4 categories match up with the 4 facets of fluency that I mentioned on the previous slide: accuracy, phrasing, expression, and pace. I think it would be difficult to find a student that was really paying attention to each of those different facets of fluency as they are reading, unless you are explicitly drawing their attention to them. I think of a typical student, they'll read through it, check, 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 and they're finished. So when we think about your data in your classroom, if the students need to overall improve their fluency, they need a little bit more directed instruction. So how can I teach fluency? Embed explicit instruction into current read-alouds. I think sometimes people think, well, I don't want to teach fluency, or I don't have time to teach fluency, I don't even know what to use. Many of you are reading text aloud already in the classroom, whether it's core text for Wit and Wisdom, whether it's decodable text, whether it's geodes, whether it is story time, whether it's social studies, science, you're already reading text aloud. So all that this would take is some really purposeful planning of how you can embed your explicit fluency instruction to this work that you're already doing. So the first thing I wrote is create a scope and sequence. I'm going to take you into a fluency drive that I created for another grade level and show you what my scope and sequence for that looks like. So I'm over here on my Google Drive. I'm going to go into this folder called 4th grade fluency. At the bottom it says 4th grade fluency sequence. So what you'll see is there is a fluency focus starting with accuracy, what it is, and then I put in when the teacher was going to teach it. I find that it's very useful to just write it right into my Wit and Wisdom plan book, into my lesson, so I know what I'm going to teach, where it's going to come. It says during the learn section. When you get to that, you're going to teach accuracy by reading a word incorrectly and then asking the students, oh, did you hear that? And then you're going to reread it correctly. Share some tips, oh, I know that's a hard word, so I'm going to underline that. The next time I come to that, I am going to be aware that that's a word I had to decode. From here, the next week, the next passage, phrasing. What lesson it comes in, what passage it matches. So as I'm reading this aloud, which I'm already going to be reading aloud, I am going to explicitly teach the students what phrasing is. I'm going to teach them about the punctuation marks, and you're going to stop there. Maybe I'll read it incorrectly with improper phrasing, and then I'm going to read it with correct phrasing. Expression and pace. So this is just a very basic month-long, 4 weeks long fluency scope and sequence using text that I already read aloud in class. The second bullet point there on my slide says teach facets of fluency individually. So as you see, when I did that scope and sequence, I went through each individually and taught them one at a time. Although they are all included on the back of that checklist on the fluency passages, I truly believe that the students need individual instruction on each of those facets of fluency, because I think it gets very muddled if you're saying to the students, we want to focus on accuracy. And then we're also going to focus on our pacing. So you want to be reading at a good speed. We also want to make meaningful expressions. So you're going to do X, Y, Z. But I also want you to be paying attention to the phrasing. I think particularly for our younger learners and our striving readers, too much there. If you try to do everything, you end up doing nothing. And when you think of fluency as something that they really need targeted instruction on, we need to be teaching those facets individually. They are eventually, once we have them all down, they are going to all work in concert with each other. But I think for individually teaching them, we need to be addressing each of those facets. The second bullet point there says create accountability to match the skill. If the skill or facet of fluency, I'll start with expression for this purpose here. If you want the students to be focusing on expression, create some kind of accountability that forces their lens onto expression. I'm going to show you the Google form that I have created. So for particularly for our older students who are in the hybrid model, this may be something that's appropriate. It's a very simple Google form. With your younger students, you could think of a checklist. You could think of some graphic on Seesaw where they have to put like a smiley face or a frowny face, something like that. So if we take a look at this Google form I created, expression, are there any words or phrases that need read with different expression? What is one phrase that needs different expression? Did I change my expression when I read? And how many times do I need to practice? And they can submit that to their teacher after you pass out the passage. So thinking about something that's that quick, but it really puts the student's focus onto that targeted practice. I also put down video. I know a lot of teachers utilize Seesaw or Flipgrid when you are having your students practice their fluency. So as with anything, tie some reflection to it. I think even our youngest students can watch themselves back and with some practice, give themselves feedback. Finally, the last bullet point there says check in regularly. Partner reading, that's a great opportunity for the students to demonstrate accountability by listening to a partner and having a partner listen to them. Morning quick reads. I put that down because I thought, maybe you're going to go through your class and one day you're going to read with 3 kids. The next morning you're going to read with a different 3 kids, then a different 3 kids. Just a quick check-in to make sure that they're practicing their passage and they're building their fluency. How can the students practice fluency? One of the biggest practices for improving reading fluency is time on text. So I want you to think of any purposeful time on text you can give the students. Is that reading choral reading aloud with you in class? Is that silently reading in class and then having you echo read together? Is it reading with a partner? Is it independent reading in the morning? Is it taping themselves reading something? Variety of things they can do. Repeated reading. You want the students to be practicing reading the same passage over and over again. So thinking back to that scope and sequence, we're going to practice accuracy. I'm going to teach you what that means. You're going to go home, you're going to read this passage, and you're going to answer those questions on the Google form. And then through the week, you're going to practice. Maybe to hold yourself accountable, you're going to tape yourself on Monday and Friday. Or it doesn't even have to be a Monday to Friday practice. It can be a Wednesday to Tuesday practice. Maybe you're going to, on Thursday morning, I'm going to take these 3 students and I'm going to have them read their passage to me. Maybe I have a paraprofessional in the classroom and they can read with the student one day. Very difficulty level. There's a great analogy I heard about the difficulty of reading passages. Say you're a marathon runner. You're not going to go out and run 26 miles every time you run. You're going to vary your distance. You're going to vary your speed. For example, maybe you're going to run just 3 miles. Maybe you're going to do a quick sprint. Maybe today you're going to take it easy and take a walk. Think of reading like that too. Imagine that complex text that we're reading in class as, you're challenging your marathon. But we also need to be giving the students a diet of different text. So maybe give them a passage on a week that there isn't a passage with the Wit and Wisdom text. Maybe give them a passage that's a rhyming passage. Maybe give them some tongue twisters. Maybe give them just a really simple scholastic news to read, utilizing resources, like reading A to Z, ReadWorks, Reading Vine. There's so many different resources that have passages at very difficulty levels. We want to give the students a varied diet of texts at different difficulty levels so that they are experiencing success and they are able to practice different facets of fluency depending on the needs of the passage. So I'm happy to help create a fluency scope and sequence for you. If you would like, please reach out. Or, if you just want to think about some practices that you can do in your classroom during your Tier 1 time and need some support with planning or implementing, please reach out for that as well.